Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. Makemba. Welcome to our series that we are going to be doing with you. The series are called The Wonders of Wisdom. Today we'll be talking about a very interesting subject matter on leadership. We're going to be looking at some concepts surrounding leadership, what leadership is and what leadership is not. If you look into what is happening in society today, especially at the turn of the century, leadership has received tremendous attention. Everybody wants to lead, but the society really understands what leadership is all about. The concept I'm going to be sharing are concepts that are applicable in all spheres of life. If you are a manager, you are a CEO, you are a husband, you are a president of an organization or a nation, you are a church leader, a pastor, the concept is applicable to everybody. Basically, let's first start off by defining what leadership is. What is a leader? Basically, a leader is somebody that has the charisma or the ability to lead people into achieving a common goal. And that's what basically a leader is all about. Now, going forward, of course, we need to understand what a leader is not. You are not a leader because you occupy a position. You are not a leader because you are a manager or you are a boss. You are a leader because you have the ability to lead people to achieve something. Failure to which, you are basically just occupying a position. So first and foremost, as a leader, you must be able to lead yourself. You cannot lead anybody if you cannot lead yourself. And how do you lead yourself? You need to develop your character as an individual. You need to become a trustworthy person. You need to be a man of your own words or a woman of your own word. You can't say one thing and do the other and expect people to respect you or believe in you as a leader. There are all kinds of con artists out there in this day and age. They say one thing and do another thing. They are duping people, confusing people and destroying lives. And that's not what leadership is all about. And of course, going forward, I want us to talk about some of the characteristics of a leader. A leader is somebody who is able to put the interest of others before his own interest. That's what defines a leader. If you want to lead effectively, you must be able to make sure and do things in such a way that you are benefiting others. In other words, as a leader, you are not in leadership for the income, but you are in leadership for the outcome. The impact that you make on others and what they take away from you as a leader, being able to grow themselves going forward, is what makes you a leader. So the income is actually the product that you produce after you have impacted people. What you build up in people and what they become, that's your income. Not revenue created from manipulating people, selling people false hope and stories, telling people riddles and teaching things that do not work. I was puzzled a few months ago. I've had a statement made by, a leader, I suppose. And the statement was, do not lead yourself. Now my question was, if I cannot lead myself, how can I expect to lead others? You understand? So that's basically what leadership is all about. And of course, if you look at what is happening in every society, you will find leaders rising up, leaders wanting to take podiums, leaders wanting to make an impact in their generation. And if you look and study any revolution known to human history, it's often young people. So that's why we have a statement that says, the young lions are rising up and there's nothing you can do to stop them. Even if you study animal behavior, for instance, if you take a pack of lions, there's always a king within the pack that leads the pack. But when the small lions grow up, they will have to fight this, old-timer in order to take over leadership. The same concept really applies with humanity. Leaders come and go. Leaders grow old and they have to pass on the baton. But of course, humanity sometimes is very difficult. We are not always able to transition properly. And we need to learn from this animal behavior that when the young lions are rising up and they want to take up position in leadership, they want to influence society, they want to do what is right and what is current to impact the generations to come. The old guns need to understand that they also have to take a backseat and start thinking about mentoring the young leaders. Because also to hold on to power when you are gone past your expiry date, it's actually a character of poor leadership. If you look at corporations all over the world, founders of different corporations, when they realize they are aging and they are growing older, oftentimes they start mentoring either their own children or somebody that they've worked with for a longer period of time, and then they just take a back seat and sit in a sort of a chairman position, and then they empower a younger one to take over. Why? Because they understand that the dynamics changes also with every generation. If you're a little bit older, sometimes the way you see life and how you view life and the way you think might have its value system derived from the generation that you came out when you were younger, and that might not necessarily be applicable currently in the new generation. So you need to realize as you grow older that sometimes you need to allow the younger ones to take podium so that they can do what is trending, what is current, what is relevant, and what is going to impact generations to come. Of course, the same applies to family structure. If you are a husband, you are supposed to lead your family very well, and of course we see a lot of painful experiences, especially in the African setting, perhaps largely because nobody has been training us, especially men and fathers, in leading our families very well. As a husband, if you have a wife and children, you need to understand that you need to put the interest of your wife and children first. You need to conduct yourself in a manner that ensure there is peace in your home, there is respect between yourself and your spouse, and your younger son should be learning from you by observing what you do. Now, a lot of mistake that men tend to make is they just do as they please, yet they want to tell the younger one growing up to do the right thing. But that's not necessarily how it works. Your son will observe how you do things, and he will exactly just end up like you. So if you want to build up your son to become an individual that will have a great impact in society as he grows older, you need to start with yourself as a husband. You need to groom your character. You need to be exemplary to your children. Because if you are not exemplary to your children, then who will? Values are learned first and foremost at home. And of course, to our church leaders, I also have just a synopsis that I want to share with, especially leadership in church, particularly in the charismatic movement. People are abusing their position in this day and age. They are selling riddles to people. They are teaching concepts that have no significance in Scripture, which is the Bible. But because they are in that position, they deem themselves to be leaders. Now, if you want to be effective as a minister of the gospel, for those that are in ministry, the first and foremost place to start with is to empower yourself by acquiring much knowledge. To try and build a ministry based on a handful worth of knowledge, when there's a whole sea of knowledge that you need to acquire, might actually work against you, and if you are not careful, you can end up destroying the very lives you are trying to build up. There are all kinds of painful things happening in this day and age, all kinds of things said to people. People are given all kinds of instruction that in the end up destroying them rather than building them up. And of course, I do understand that oftentimes these instructions are given by well-wishing individuals that want to help, but because they themselves are less informed, the instructions are not necessarily always practical. The instructions are not always necessarily truthful. The instructions are not always necessarily relevant. So as a leader, you need to inform yourself. I always tell people that the cure for ignorance is not a miracle, it's knowledge. So you don't need a miracle to become wise. You just need to acquire much knowledge, and then you find the practical aspect of that knowledge, and when you put it to use, guess what? It will work for you. I trust you've been blessed by this small clip, and we look forward to talking to you again. Thank you very much.